welcome back to Be a Warrior podcast. I am your host, Angie, and this is our last week of Limb Loss, Limb Awareness Month, and ending with a bang here with none other than Mike Coots from Kauai. And Mike, it is great to have you back on the show. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Angie. It's a pleasure to be chatting.
Yeah, it's been too long.
Yeah,
I met you right before COVID hit, and then we have not been back to Kauai since then. And it's just because of
yeah.
one thing and another, kids in college and just trying to make it work. And actually, my husband and I are getting away, and we're going to come see you guys in September. Yay.
No way. Awesome.
Yes. So I'm so
Awesome.
excited.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can get him out surfing this time.
Yep.
That's
Perfect.
the goal. Well, as I was telling you guys, Mike's been on before, and it was kind of funny. He was on when I was a newbie. You were probably in my second month of ever doing a podcast in March. So if you want to hear more from Mike, you can look back at the March 2021 episode. But Mike, since there are so many different people and new people listening now, which is a great thing because this is my third year of doing this, I would really love for people to get to know who you are, kind of where you grew up, and your lifestyle, and then what happened.
Okay. I'm from Hawaii, the island of Kauai, born and raised here. I'm a surfer, a diehard ocean lover. I'm a photographer. My occupation is a shark photographer, and I'm a shark attack survivor. I got attacked by a tiger shark when I was 18. Right out of high school, I was on a surfing team and had high hopes of being a professional wave rider. And it was an event that happened so fast. I mean, it was only seconds, but changed my life forever. It was not painful in any way. You kind of wouldn't believe that, but as I was getting attacked, I felt an immense amount of pressure. I had a quick thinking friend, Kyle, who saved my life. I thought I was going to die that day on the beach, but it wasn't scary. It was peaceful. I had people around me praying for me, and I thought, this could be my last breath. I really felt like I wasn't going to make it. I had them throw me in the back of a truck, and we hauled butt to the hospital. And I woke up the next day with my family around me, and it was a real somber moment. I remember my eyes opening like you would in a movie, like that slow flickering, and the light comes in, and everybody around me was kind of sad and quiet. And my mom was like, I'm gonna have to tell you something, Mike. And I thought they were telling me that I was going to not make it. That was the first thing that came to my head. And they were like, Mike, you lost your leg in a shark attack. And I was like, I know, I saw it come off. And I think since then I've been just gifted time, going from thinking that you're not going to make it to making it, and to being able to thrive and to be able to live a life really without limitations. I'm very fortunate to have a good prosthetic leg. I'm a below the knee amputee, and I can do everything I could pre-shark attack. I run, surf, dive. There's really nothing I can't do. And I feel very fortunate to live in a modern era where modern medicine can make these things happen. And I have a great support group around me. I've got family and friends, and I feel like I'm really living the dream life as a shark photographer and a shark conservationist, and trying to do my part to help protect a species that's invaluable for the health of our oceans and the health of our planet.
Wow. Okay. We could just end the whole podcast right there. That was incredibly succinct. Okay. So no, we'll delve in a little bit. Interestingly enough, I met Mike, and it's funny when you said below knee, I laughed to myself because I had met Mike through Coach Chris, who is on Oahu.
He is correct. Yep. The North Shore of Oahu.
And because the first time I went to Hawaii as an amputee, I left my charger at home. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know anybody. I don't know what to do here. Small island. Like, we're not talking any big booming cities like on the Big Island or anything. And I just remember reaching out to Coach Chris, telling him I was in this place. He goes, call Mike. Yep. So I called you, and you're like, so I'm a below knee. I don't need a charger. So that's actually how we met. And you were so gracious, though, because you're like, hook up with Eric Welton.
Yep.
And
North Shore Prosthetics. Yep.
Seriously, that was a complete godsend, because being there for a whole week and realizing the first night that we got there that I had no charger, by the next day my leg was dead and unusable. Yep. So then I put on a hydraulic leg, which was so frightening. And I walked around Honolulu Bay in that leg, like just learning it. And then Eric got me a charger by midweek. It was incredible. So
Wow.
that's how our story was that we met. It
Yeah.
was just such a crazy, you're like, yeah, so I don't need a charger. I'm like, dang it. But it's interesting how you mentioned some of the things when you and I know when we talked before, we already talked a lot about how, you came back from this and everything. And actually it blows my mind as a mainlander, my thoughts are a lot of us have fears of sharks because we see people getting attacked on the islands or off the coast of Florida or the Gulf or whatever, and you hear it all the time. And here you guys are, this is a way of life. Sharks are a part of your ecosystem. And is that true? I mean, is it fair to say that most of the people on the islands are more shark lovers than fear like we have on the mainland? Is it?
That's a great question. I would say more so people that spend a lot of time around the water recognize that sharks, there's the old saying, if you can tell a shark, is going to be in the water by putting your finger in the water and tasting it. If it's salty, that means sharks are around. It's their home. The ocean is their home, and
Yeah.
people that really have a connection with the sea know that that's just part of the ocean. I think it's in a way an allure of what makes the ocean incredible. It's like these living dinosaurs that are still around that are roaming the oceans, and there are human and shark interactions that can lead to injury and death, and that's a real thing. But by large and all, it's just the ocean's incredible, and it's such a
Yeah.
beautiful place to be. It's such a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think people that live in like island nations or on the coastlines really get that.
Yeah. Yeah, I wondered about that. I don't know if we just have this weird fear because of movies that have come out and
Yeah,
horror flicks and whatever, but when we're not
yeah,
used to it, and here I am in a desert, and I figured I was
yep,
already one leg down the first time I go surfing is, and I'm like, well, I forgot one's gone. Who cares?
yeah, yeah,
What,
yeah, and,
go ahead, try to bite
yeah,
that one. All of a sudden my
yeah.
fear
And
wasn't as great.
right?
you know? Well,
um,
yeah. Go ahead. Did you have something?
I mean, you go to a landlocked city and you tell somebody you're a surfer, the first thing they think of is, "Aren't you scared of sharks?" That's like the first thing that comes to mind. And Hollywood's done a
Yeah.
really good job of selling us that they're these big bad monsters, and you put your toes in the water, you're going to get attacked. Which is it's such a statistical anomaly. You're more likely to
Yeah.
have a vending machine fall on top of you and kill you, or much more likely on the way to the beach, get in a car
Yeah.
accident, or walking down the trail, whatnot, hitting the reef, surfing, than an actual shark attack. And
Yeah.
it's such a rarity.
Yeah, and it's hard though. I mean, I hear you say that, and I've been in the ocean, and it is a completely powerful experience. But there is still something that I grew up with that's still a trigger, like when thinking of
Mm-hmm.
the ocean. So I've noticed lately, as I've reached out more and more, and my journey as an amputee has kind of taken me in all these weird places, and I have met some incredible people. I have noticed more and more because I'm one of the few that actually elected to have an amputation. So my mindset and everything had to be right before going into the operating room. However, I am meeting more and more people that have been devastated by accidents and unfair
Yep.
circumstances like that. My question to you would be, what is it? And if you can go back and really delve into this, what mental aspect do you have to jump over that? Why me? This sucks, not fair. This is what wasn't I planning? And
Yeah.
how do you come out successful on the other side? What has to trigger? And you were
Yeah.
young.
Yeah. I was 18. And my journey as an amputee is a lot different than yours. I woke up that morning able-bodied, went to sleep that night an amputee. It was something I didn't know was going to happen, and the shark did the amputation. It was when those eyes that I mentioned flickered open in the hospital the next day, when I came to, and I was sort of coherent of what happened. I didn't feel any resentment. I didn't feel any anger. I felt like I'm now living on borrowed time, and that
Mm.
this is like a gift in a way, that I'm alive, and I'm still gonna be able to do what I can do. And when I, when I was sort of processing all this, and I had never in my life seen an amputee living on a little island. I'd never seen a prosthetic leg. And it was my third day in the hospital. I had a lot of people coming and going in the community, just doing their well wishes. And a
Right.
guy came, he was wearing pants, and he just said hi, didn't mention he was an amputee or anything, just chatted for would have been 5 minutes left. And my mother was like, you do realize that he's got a prosthetic leg on, and that's what you're going to have. And this was a moment of like, whoa, and I wasn't those 3 days thinking that the rest of my life I'm going to be in a wheelchair on crutches, and nothing against people's spinal cord injuries or anything. I was just like, that's going to be it. And that's fine with me. I can still get in the water. I can still live a life and have a beautiful life. And it's going to be amazing. And then with the prosthetic, it was my learning that I'm have a prosthetic. Then I started kind of shifting my thinking differently. Okay, maybe I can surf with it. Maybe I can do this with it. And it kind of opened up a different, idea set of what is reality or what I can do. It was just something that my brain, and so I think I was just hopeful from the very beginning. It was just I can breathe. I got my family around me.
Mm.
I've got the the strongest part of my body is not missing. That's my brain.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And it's
and there
interesting.
was.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And with the animosity towards sharks, there was
Right.
never any hatred to want to go out and kill the shark, get revenge, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth type of thing. I just knew that I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's it. I had spent almost every day of my life at some point in the water since I was, 6 years old or so. Like I was drawn to the ocean, and it was the month after the shark attack when I was bedridden and I couldn't get in the ocean. That was the most difficult part. It wasn't losing a limb; it was not being able to get back in the water. And
Mm.
I remember, I remember when the doctor said that the risk of infection had gone down. They took out the stitches, they took out the staples, and I could get back in the water. Finally, it would have been about 4 weeks after the attack, and it just so happened to be a very close spot to where I got attacked. And it wasn't because I was like trying to get back on the horse, the same exact area. Just the waves happened that day to be good, where really close to where I got attacked. And it's this really hot, kind of deserty, sandy beach, and I was on crutches, and the crutches just sink in that soft sand, and a third of the crutch is buried in the sand, and it's this hard, awkward, just trying to get to the water. You're sweating, and then as soon as you get in the water, and I was on a bodyboard, and I had put one fin on, and I sort of slided like a seal back into the water. How I just remember like how incredible that felt to have the salt water come over me, and it was a beautiful moment. It was probably one of the most special moments of my life.
Yeah.
And from there, it just felt like life was going to go back to normal.
There is something truly healing about the ocean.
There is,
They're really, and unless you've experienced it, you just don't get it. And just that one experience I had that time, back in
mm-hmm.
2019, and I'm like, I cannot wait to get back because we don't have salt water here in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of dryness.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think as a teenager, a young man, that just knowing I've taught kids, I have two of my own almost out of teenage years. They're invincible, right? In their heart and soul, they're invincible. That's why they sometimes do stupid things.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't tell them, that's going to be wrong and something's going to happen. So I'm wondering if your mentality was already there. Like, I'm strong, I'm young, I got this. Whereas, I'm trying to grasp what the key concepts are in people's thinking or their mind game of those that succeed. And obviously you have the positive attitude, you have this is a second chance. But then there's on the other extreme that I'm noticing is, and maybe it just takes a lot more time when we get older to wrap our head around, this is not how life has been for so many years. And all of a sudden now it's just taking a right turn. Can you speak to that at all? I mean, would you say that having your buddies around and your age, you were just like,
Yeah.
nothing's holding me back?
Yeah. I think like this thought just came to me, but when you're really, really young, you get upset over a lot of things. A toy gets taken away, you start crying.
Mm-hmm.
Everything sort of like bothers you. You're crying a lot. And
Yeah.
then you sort of get in your teenage years, and you're just happy go lucky, and you're discovering new things and exploring new places and having new friends. And it
Mm-hmm.
feels like everything is on your side, and it's beautiful
Right.
and it's incredible. And then as you get older and older, you start getting that turning back into that toddler, and you get, a little bit more bitter, and you kind of a little more of a chip on your shoulder in a way that a
Yeah.
lot of people I know have that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think maybe it was, 18 is almost the most optimal age to become an amputee. And like, I think it would be different maybe if it was like a car accident where I had somebody else to blame, or I shouldn't have
Yes.
done this, or it was, why did I do this that caused it? Whereas like a shark attack, it just happened. It was
Yeah.
such you know, a fluke event that it just happened, and it was over with so fast. Like I said, there was no pain. The
Mm.
shark did the amputation. It was within seconds. I had aid come to my side. I had family. I had the entire island supporting me. I could still I had a resemblance of normality and things looking forward to. I was going to get back in the water. I was going to be able to go surfing with my friends very shortly. It wasn't the 6 month, 5 year period. It was just something, and it was,
Mm.
and I don't know. It was, in a way, it was like a perfect transformation in becoming an amputee. And I've been very fortunate to not have any bad dreams. I've never once dreamt about the shark attack. I dream I've got two legs. It's funny. I talked to Bethany Hamilton, another shark attack survivor, and she dreams she has two arms. Your brain just goes into this.
Yeah.
I'm whole. Like
Yeah.
there's, and my journey would be a lot different. Let's say it was 1903 and I was on a wooden prosthetic, or I lived in a country that they persecute disabled people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really even call myself disabled, but if I was in another country,
Yeah.
there's a chance I could be executed for being, inferior and not being able to contribute to society that
Yeah.
society thinks I should. So to live in Hawaii, to have a dream job, I have a endorsement with the leader of prosthetics. I don't have to worry about stuff breaking. Like you couldn't have scripted this any better. And
Right.
as a shark photographer, I feel a real sense of I don't know how to put this in a word. A real like it's a passion, and sharks are, I think, one of the most incredible subjects to photograph on Earth. They're the ultimate muse. Um,
Yeah.
but I feel a sense of responsibility and a sense of giving back for what the ocean has given me,
Mm-hmm.
and to share to the world that we need sharks, and through through storytelling, and um, so I feel this sense of responsibility, and that's turns into drive, and that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what puts the fire underneath me. And it's just, if you were to ask me that, and I've said this in other interviews, if I were to paddle out that day knowing I'd become an amputee, and knowing I would be limbless and have to have a prosthetic the rest of my life, but have the journey and everything that I have in my life now, absolutely. Getting attacked by a shark was the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
Anybody that I have talked to that has lost a limb, that has rearranged their thinking and rose up from that and come out successful on the other side, there isn't anybody that's wanted to take it back.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, and it's truly a joy to hear you talk about how what it does is, and I feel the same way. Like, I feel like, that I was given an opportunity to use the journey that I've gone on to help others wherever I can,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's just a shoulder for them or answers to questions or however it could be. And, I'm still looking, at my age, I'm still trying to figure out what
Yeah,
my
yeah.
life is going to be about. It's exciting, but I think that is so true that if you can come out on the other side going, okay, so this is my life now. What do you need me to do with this? Kind of talking to that
Yeah.
universe, like, where am I supposed to be? When you find that purpose, it does light a fire. It gives you a distraction from what could, if you sat around and did nothing, imagine where you'd be right
Mm-hmm.
now. But
Yeah,
having
yeah,
that purpose, right, doesn't
yeah,
it change the
yeah,
dynamics of your situation?
yeah. And it makes it, it's exciting to get up in the morning and to pursue something that you really believe in, and feel like you're on you're here to do. And I won't, like, I'll be honest, there's been infections in my knee, there's been challenges. It's hasn't been like a completely perfect journey as an amputee for a long time. I didn't have health insurance. I had no backing from, a prosthetic manufacturer. Was buying used feet on eBay. Got ripped off a couple times on eBay and waiting, for a foot to come because I could barely get around, and or missing college, exams because I had a bad blister where the liner goes, and had a similar story sort of to yours. Went on a surf trip to Mexico, and I literally got off the plane and checked into the little hotel, and my prosthetic snapped in half. Day one of a surf trip, and and it's like your prosthetic is your everything. It's your mode of transportation. It's your self worth. It's like it really becomes a part of you. And for something to break,
Mhm.
it's not just your can't get around, but you feel like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And I was fortunate in that situation that I had a friend bring it to a machinist, and they were able to put a new, take out a tap and die an old bolt and put something in, and it was, $2 and took 3 hours, and I was back as life
That,
goes on.
well, and I'm
Yeah, but
glad you
yeah,
mentioned that. Yeah, that you have the downs, because
yeah,
you don't rise without having to fall down a few times, right?
yeah. And I've even been like at the airport, and I had a prosthetic for a long time, for years, that I had a really bad limp and I couldn't run. And
Mm.
I've missed flights where I'm with other people, and we're all rushing to catch a flight, and I'm left behind, just because I couldn't go fast enough. And um,
Mm.
it's yeah, and that bad limp fortunately never transformed over to like any back pain. I'm very fortunate to feel
Yes.
very healthy. I have zero aches, zero pains, um, and I can run. I have a really good running blade. I can beach run. I can do sprints. I can run up hills. Um, so I've been fortunate that I'm now at a really good place with prosthetics, because I know there's a lot of people that aren't.
And it's sad, because we're not even talking underprivileged countries that don't. We're even talking in the
Yeah,
US, which,
absolutely.
with, I mean, that's another whole podcast, or a year of podcasting on insurances and how to finagle your way through it. Um, what would you say is some good advice for someone who has been through something really traumatic? And I'm visualizing a couple people I've just recently talked to that they're really down and out right now. They're probably more around my age. Life was going and shooting straight, and now it's taken a
Hmm.
direct detour. What would be some really good advice to get past that that mental side, to pick yourself back up? And
Um, that's a tough question, because I haven't really been like in a situation like, but if it were me, I would say journaling. I would say trying to find what your passions are, what your drives are, what you have positives in your life. Write those down and look at those, and really
Mhm.
try to build on those. I would, all those negative things, and why me, or I can't do this, or why is this happening. I wouldn't even think of those if I could block those out and just look at the positives.
Yeah.
Look at what you have to look forward to. Look at what you love, this type of food, you love this cooking, you love this type of music, this type of art, this family member, this friend. Just really try to build on those things, because I mean, life is beautiful. There's so many different facets of life and cultures, things to learn. And like I don't know, I wish I had 10 lifetimes to just learn, even just on mechanics, or just, there's so many things. But I know that people that have a really hard time, or in depression, like that stuff is hard to break through, and it's hard to probably even look at things that are positive in your life, because you just feel this cloud over you. And
Yeah.
I and pray, and just trust in a higher power that
Yeah.
everything's going to be all right. Yeah.
I agree. I think, yeah, finding your purpose and everything. And that kind of brings me to the question, and I know we've touched on it before, but when you were younger, before this happened, and I know you wanted to be on the surf team, you wanted to compete, you were going to go
Mm-hmm.
professional. Was the change into your fascination with sharks immediate after your attack?
No, it wasn't. It was sort of a gradual thing. My passion for photography really was started after the shark attack. I I needed to find a way of making a living, and got a job at a surf shop called Nukamoy Surf Company, and it was here on Kauai. And it was my first day, and this would have been a few months after the attack, maybe 5 months or so. And first day on the job, I was standing all day with this crummy prosthetic, and I got a really bad infection in my knee. Had to go to the emergency room, get it cut open, and was just talking to my family afterwards. I'm like, I don't know, you know, Kauai, everything is tourism based. It's
Mm.
your valet, you're running around, you're a waiter at standing on your feet at a restaurant, at a hotel,
Yeah.
whatnot, and need to try to find a different way of making a living. And I had a surfing coach who had a lot of camera gear, and I started tinkering around and making little video edits of my friends surfing, and taking still photos of my friends surfing. A lot of them are professional surfers, and I really enjoyed that. And I was able to sell it to the magazines, because maybe not my photography was the best, but they were the best at surfing.
Yeah.
um, and then I talked to my family again, and I'm like, I really love this photography stuff, and applied for Brooks Institute of Photography in Santa Barbara. And it felt like the next day I was on a plane going to Santa Barbara. Spent 4 years studying photography. I really focused on portraiture, took a lot of portraiture classes. I wanted to shoot people. And I honestly wanted to be a bikini photographer. I wanted to
Yeah.
work for Roxy and go around the world to beautiful islands and shoot beautiful women.
Yeah.
And I had really my sights set on that. And I finished up school, and shortly thereafter, I started working for Quicksilver, and I started shooting a lot of actually a lot of guys in board shorts and things like that, and guys surfing as well. And I thought this is an incredible job. It's a dream job. I'm at the
Yeah.
beach every day, and I'm working for a big brand and getting paid good money. And I got a phone call by a lady named Debbie Solomon, and um, she was a shark attack survivor from Florida, and she asked if I was interested in getting into shark conservation. And these were
Oh,
words I'd
that's
never heard
awesome.
before. I After the attack, I did a lot of research on shark attacks. I was really curious on why I got attacked. Was it the moon that day, the tide phase, whatnot? Trying to put sort of two to two together and put
Mhm.
these pieces together of why it was me that got attacked and why there at that beach. And I didn't find any answers. And I sure knew a heck of a lot what sharks were doing to humans like myself, but I had
Mhm.
no idea what we were doing to sharks. And Debbie was like, "You've got to watch this documentary on YouTube. It's called Shark Water by the late Rob Stewart." I watched it that night. It changed my life forever. I was incredibly blown away by what we were doing to our oceans, what we were doing with
Mm.
shark fin soup. And there was a number on the screen that came
Yeah.
on halfway through that 70 million sharks a year are killed for shark fin soup. And it was this number that just completely just like, I was like, this is not right. That
Yeah.
I need to help. I love the ocean. If I can do anything and use my unique story in any which way to make the ocean a better place, so be it. And I called her back the next day, and I'm like, how can I help? And she's
Mm.
like, well, I'm putting together a small group of shark attack survivors, and we would like you to come to Washington, D.C. and speak to the United States Congress. There's a bill going through, and we'd love for it to get passed that it closes a lot of loopholes on shark finning and protecting sharks. And went to DC and did that, and we got the bill passed. I came back to my home state of Hawaii, and we had a similar bill, but much more stringent on making shark fin contraband. Spoke up as a advocate and a voice for sharks using my irony and unique story, and we were able to get that bill passed as well.
Wow.
First state in America to do so. Soon after, all ocean states with oceans followed suit, and they copied that bill. Um,
Wow.
and about a few months after all of this, I was invited to go to Guadalupe Island. It's this island offshore of Mexico. It's probably the best place in the world to see great white sharks. And um, I jumped on the offer, went out there, spent about a week at Guadalupe, and I had, because I was shooting surfing, I had a really good camera, really good underwater housing that went with it. I could shoot big waves, small waves, anything, but I didn't think to bring it. For some reason, I just didn't bring it. I brought this like really old GoPro. It was the second version of the GoPro that I had won in a surfing photography contest. And um, I remember the first day, just this tiny little camera taken underwater, face to face with the big great white in a cage. And that evening, put it in my laptop, saw the photos, and was like, "This is the coolest thing on earth to shoot. I need to do more of this. This is amazing." And a few weeks later, it was or almost a month later, I found myself at Tiger Beach in the Bahamas. My first time underwater or seeing
Nice.
a tiger shark face to face since getting attacked by one. I brought my good camera gear. I Most underwater photographers, if not all, shoot with wide angle lenses. It's because you want to be really have less separation between the subject and yourself underwater. With that volume of water causes like blurriness, you lose
Yeah.
color, contrast. So you want to be as close to the subject as possible. So you have to use a wide angle lens. But when you shoot people, you would never really use a wide angle lens.
Hmm.
Um, Shooting people, you learn to use longer focal lengths. It's more flattering, like
Yeah.
portrait lenses. And I thought to bring underwater was so clear, I didn't have to worry about that volume of water. And I brought my portrait lenses underwater and
Wow.
shot these tiger sharks like I would a person. Um, and I that evening again on the laptop, wow, this is something special. This is what I want to do, and haven't stopped since.
That's crazy. And I do remember you telling the story about that lady in Florida. And
Yeah.
my next question was going to be, so who actually opened doors for you? And that's that little rabbit hole. You don't know where it's leading you, but you jump there,
Yep.
and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're doing this, and then you're realizing you're taking your
Yeah.
two passions and pulling them together.
I've been very fortunate to just have these chain of events in my life. It started
Yeah.
with my surfing coach, Bob Sato. He had camera gear. He let me use this
Mhm.
camera gear. I had friends that were extremely talented. I was able to photograph them. Another big one was this guy named John Russell. He was a commercial photographer from the Big Island. And he came to Kauai shortly after the shark attack and did a magazine story of me. There was some outlets that would come over. And so it was just a photo shoot. I just posed with my board and the rocks. Nothing too I don't know. It was just like really like just I didn't really think too much of it. And
Yeah.
then about a few months later, he called me and he's like, "I'm coming back to Kauai and I'm doing a photo shoot for Sports Illustrated for kids, but I need an assistant. You're the only one on the island that I really know. Would you mind just holding a reflector or some lights for me?" And I went and did that, saw him work, was like, "Wow, this is really cool." And that sort of was that time when I applied for photography college. I'm like, "This,
Mhm.
I'd love to do what he's doing. This is rad." 3 years into college, I'm in a marketing class, and the teacher is passing out promotional pieces of photographers from around the country, and it's like a card with their best images and then their website and contact info. And the card I was given was John Russell's. It was his promo piece, and I was like, "Wow, this is crazy." I mean, this is one of the reasons why I'm in this school right now is because of this guy, and it had his phone number. At class ended, I got out in the hall and got my cell phone, called him, and he just so happened to be in Santa Barbara where I was going to school. He was
That's
doing ad
crazy.
campaign for Patagonia, and he's like, "Come meet me for lunch." Met him for lunch, and he's like, "I'd love for you to come assist me, and I'd love to teach you some stuff." I could. He's like, "I joked I can teach you more than the school will ever teach you."
Yeah. Well,
um,
real life, right?
yeah, real life
Yeah.
stuff, and it was during the transition from film to digital, and he brought me along on some of these really big photo shoots. And as an assistant, you usually don't shoot unless you're a second shooter. You're holding something, and you can never use these big names as a client. The photographer is the one shooting photos, and that's their client. You're just helping them basically.
Yeah.
So you can never claim this for marketing, anything for
Mhm.
marketing or anything like that. And because it was a transition to digital, these clients wanted to see digital proofs, and he didn't know how to shoot digital. So we had these beautiful, elaborate setups, and I was a second shooter for him shooting digital. And a lot of times, these clients they needed stuff right away. So my digital images were being used in marketing campaigns. One day I asked him, "Would you mind if I would use these as a client?" And he's like, "Absolutely. You shot the photos. They used it as a campaign. It came out of their budget. They're your client." Incredibly nice of him to
Nice.
do. And that really helped boost my career because a lot of times you can't shoot for a big client unless you've shot for a big client. They don't want to be the guinea pig. So
Yeah.
it's this catch 22, and it's really hard to break through as an emerging photographer with that. And this was my way of breaking through. And I feel well, he was one of the people in my life that just really immensely helped me. And then it was somebody like Debbie Solomon, like these people in my
Yeah.
life that have just, I wouldn't be here if one of those persons were not in my life.
Right.
It would be a completely different trajectory. So I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Well, and even so, give yourself credit because I find that the more you're open to carrying someone's camera, things happen for
Mm-hmm.
you, right? So, and that's something I've learned, and I don't know if that's a lease on a second life kind of feel that you get, but I've done the same thing. I feel like I've learned to say yes to more things, and what's come out of it has been incredibly gratifying, and it's also put me in different directions, that I
Mm-hmm.
never would have ever dreamed would happen for me. So I do believe that, being open
Yeah.
to any experience afterwards is always gonna kind of boost you in some direction. And it may be like, nope, I definitely don't want to do that, but it may open up a door that opens another
Yeah.
door and it's just this grand plan that if you just learn to watch for the signs, it's there for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then that
I,
comes around and brings you that purpose that makes you realize that life doesn't end because you look different. And like you said,
mm-hmm.
and I know you agree with it, I don't feel disabled. I'm doing
Yeah.
everything I'd ever want to do. And, yeah, there's bad days. And for those of you listening, we're all human. So Mike's very successful at what he does, but he also has issues with his prosthetic and bad days. We all have them. I think there's this thing on social media where we see so many successful amputees that no one really sees the negative side or the hard side or the down moments.
Yeah.
And we should be more real, I think, because if we could show those down moments and what it took to get out of it, then it would be more tangible for those that are newbies coming into the world this way. Because it's overwhelming and 1,000 times better now. Even since I talked to you last in the last couple of years, things have just boomed on the
Mm-hmm.
technology and the things you can get to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. That
There's
was
no
really well
limit,
said. Yeah, absolutely. No limit.
none at all.
Yeah.
So interested now. Let's fast forward in the last couple years. What have you been doing? What's been happening? What's new?
Okay. I would say that the biggest in the last couple of years is I've been working on a book. I've got an amazing publisher out of New York called Rizzoli. I'm doing a coffee table book on sharks. It's 240 pages,
Wow.
200 images, big, bold, and beautiful. It's portraits of sharks shot in that portrait technique that I mentioned.
Yep.
The book is called Shark Portraits. It comes out in September.
Wow.
It was an incredible process from early on till now, where it's at the printers getting printed as we speak.
Wow.
Learning about bookmaking and learning about of how to do it, and everything from trying to work with a publicist on the end side of it, so the beginning of picking photos, deadlines, really strict deadlines, and trying to get as many sharks as I can in that book. I wanted to go to as many places as I could and photograph sharks around the world. And I also wanted to, when you go diving with sharks, and especially big sharks like tiger sharks, maybe great hammerheads, great whites,
Yeah.
bull sharks, a lot of them have names. They've got personalities, but they
Yes.
also have names, and they're ID'd. And I wanted to have as many sharks that were in the book ID'd. So I worked with ID specialists from around the world with these shark hotspots to get their names in the book.
Wow.
Because I just think it gives it, I don't know, it gives them the respect that they deserve. When you have something as a name, there's just much more. It's just a way of showing respect. I believe they're not these nameless just monsters. They're,
Yeah.
you know, they've got strong personalities, um and I find value in shooting sharks like I would people, because I believe that if you can see a little bit of yourself in something, that expression, that that highlight in the eyes, that smirk, that smile, maybe a crooked jaw that has humor, or something like that, that you
Yeah.
want to learn more about it, and in turn want to protect something, and get motivated to do something. And I've really found value in personifying these animals.
That's so
So
cool.
that's been an incredible journey on its own, and it's been a little over a year and a half, and it'll be
Really.
almost 2 years when the book comes out. I've also been doing a lot of dive trips. I'm heading to Mexico next week.
Yeah.
I'm leading an expedition where I'm going to be teaching about photography and sharks, and we're going to be at Socorro Island. It's a 9-day trip, I believe, about 240 miles offshore of Cabo San Lucas. It's one of the best places in the world to dive with big pelagic animals, a lot of whales, and huge oceanic manta rays that just span bigger than your room, like incredible. And from there,
Wow.
I'm going to go to the Maldives. There's an island called Mula. I've been there before. It's a really small island. You could go around on a moped in maybe half an hour or so, and there's a channel entrance right there that has a lot of tiger sharks. When the fishing boats come in, they dump the scraps. They've been doing it for years, the fishing scraps, and the tiger sharks picked up on this, and they all just hang out in the harbor entrance. And I'm going to lead an expedition there as well, for a little over a week of people that want to dive with tiger sharks, and that's should be really fun. And then I'm doing a publicity thing for my watch sponsor in Newport, Rhode Island from there, and then I'll be back home. And I've got a really bad pterygium in my eye from being in the water so much, and glare and sun and salt water in my right eye, and my vision's, I'm sort of getting really bad vision in my right eye. So I'm going to do eye surgery. They cut out the pterygium, and then I'll be out of the water for a month or so. But then I'm hoping that just my eyes will get back to normal, and get ready for next year's surf season starting next winter. Hopefully go surfing with you in September.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And it's so funny because I saw that you had your dive sessions going on, and we're actually going to be in Cabo. We're going to miss you, but we're going to be in Cabo mid-May. And I've never been. So I was like, I started searching where that was, and that's like, it's way down there off of
It is.
off of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's a beautiful place.
It looks like it would be amazing. And can anybody join into these on your website? Is that how they sign up?
Social media. If my Instagram's at Mike Coots, my name, and they can send me a message and I can link them up. So like the Socorro trip, you need to be scuba certified.
Okay.
The Maldives, it would help to be scuba certified. A lot of these trips are, and they're more on maybe the advanced side of scuba diving, but not necessarily. There's some places that are very user friendly, but you would want to be scuba certified.
Yeah. And have you had amputees on these trips with you before, or is that?
Ooh, great question. I don't believe I have. I've done dives with other amputees, not on expeditions, but on like marketing shoots and things
Yeah.
like that, other shark attack survivors. My dream would be one day to host an expedition with people that have been attacked by a shark and haven't returned to the water since, and be with them on their very first time being back in the water or
Yeah.
back in the water with sharks and that experience. As we mentioned on the beginning of this, how healing the ocean is.
Oh,
And I just, you get back in the water and just everything else just floats away with it. It's a very powerful thing.
it is. I would totally agree with you. I think that changed my trajectory completely on what I was going to be capable. And that was just a year, not even a year after my amputation. And just even to try something totally different,
Yeah.
The mainlander from Illinois who'd never been on a surfboard. Now I have a surfboard in my pool so I can work on strokes.
Yeah.
While I'm sitting in my pool,
Awesome.
I tie myself off and work on my shoulder strength, waiting for the pool to warm up. It's been a little chilly over here lately.
Okay.
This has been a very cold winter for us, but
I've been hearing, yep.
It's been crazy. I don't know if you guys have been experiencing different chill, but
We have, and we've been getting a lot of snow on the Big Island. We've actually got a really powerful storm coming in a couple hours.
Really?
They're saying probably hail, 50-mile-an-hour winds, flash flooding. So this afternoon should be pretty interesting. I think it's about 50 miles offshore right now, heading towards Kauai, and then it'll move across the state throughout the night tonight and into tomorrow. So
wow,
it's been really wet. We've had a lot of flooding here. It's been kind of a crazy winter.
Well, that you guys had a couple years ago, you had massive flooding. I know Honolulu got really bad.
Yeah.
Hopefully
really
that doesn't happen again.
I hope not. Yeah.
You don't need that much rain.
No,
we know it's raining. We don't need that much rain.
Yeah.
How is September? What am I looking at for September when it comes to surfing?
September is a great transitional time. It's the beginning of our surf season. It's actually the very, very start of the surf season, and you'll get some early season swells. I would say an average swell in September is usually head high out of the north direction. The weather's incredible in September. It's one of my favorite months. It's a really good time, but really any time to visit Hawaii is a good time.
Oh, yeah.
As long as you're not in the middle of a flash flood.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's good.
Or a hurricane.
Well, yeah. I'm excited. I want to make sure that people know that you sell your prints and I've seen your work on t-shirts. Yep. The work, I've seen them on fins, right? Yep. People get them on their scuba fins and everything.
Correct. Yeah.
Where will they be able to get your book in September?
So my book will be available at Target, Barnes & Noble. It's available for pre-order now. It's called Shark Portraits by Mike Coots. You can get it through Rizzoli's website. I'll be posting some stuff on my social media here shortly. People can message me anytime as well, and I could send links. But if you just Google my name and Shark Book, you'll see online retailers.
Well, I will make sure I tag all that on this.
Thank you.
And maybe in September, after your book launch, we can have you back on to talk about the specifics of that book.
Yeah, I would love to.
That would be so cool. I would love it. Well, Mike, I can't thank you enough for spending time with us today. And it was great to see you and catch up. I feel like it's been way too long. And I wish you the best of luck. Stay positive and keep reaching for those dreams and saving those sharks.
Thanks, Angie. And thanks for the wonderful chat this morning. That was awesome.
It's been awesome. Thank you so much.